Welcome to the virtual stage, Erin and Michelle.
Thank you so much, Danya. I think we're still waiting on Erin.
Do you not see me? I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
Here.
Erin, thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to moderate your fireside chat today.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, it's been a big week. Yesterday was your birthday. So happy birthday.
Thank you.
And you were nominated for Adweek's Future is Female Award. So congratulations.
Thank you. Very exciting and very honored to be. There were 25, a short list, and just honored to be with such successful women and alongside them.
Absolutely. It's always just an honor to be nominated, but I think they did the right thing in getting you in that list. So we are a proud partner at Premion of Del Taco, supporting your streaming efforts. So we're well-versed in your company, and I got to speak with you last week, but I was hoping you could give the viewers watching a little bit of a scoop more about you, as well as your role as VP of Marketing Technology.
Sure. So, well, Del Taco, we have over 600 restaurants throughout the US, and we're growing fast. I always love hearing about like markets we're just entering into and how fun it is. We make our food. The difference is it's made fresh. So like cheese comes in blocks and it's grated, and it's not like put in a baggie with like stuff that makes cheese not stick together, which we all know it does. So ours is actually fresh in the restaurant. You know, the avocados are cut up, the tomatoes are sliced, which people are like, well, of course they are. But a lot of restaurants bring, especially in our space, will bring them in already packaged up. We do not. We are like QSR plus, so you can eat there. Really, it is a financially sound decision to eat at our restaurants, and it won't break the bank, which is always great. Thrillist listed us as having the best value menu. And then what do? I do anything that touches a computer, a phone, a device, which turns out is everything. It feels like that way some days, right?
Jack
so
of all trades.
Yes, right. Loyalty, all different things we have our hands in. And I am blessed to be at Del Taco. I've been there just over a year now.
Awesome. So we're going to do some rapid fire questions just so the audience can kind of get to know you. Okay. So 5 questions coming at you.
Okay.
Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Yes.
Do I have to explain it? Like, it's an amazing word. It's very like the ways that you can use it and feel about that word, and the emotions that can be resonated by using that word are it's wonderful.
It's
fucking
so
wonderful.
Dynamic. It can be used in so many ways.
Yes.
Favorite musical artist or band?
So I think I love Bruno Mars and I love Ed Sheeran. Like you can just get up and dance, and like they're just wonderful. Like I could play their entire playlist and it won't get old.
They're kind of the crooners too. I feel like they've got some real soul to them, both.
Yeah, no, I feel like we'd have a really thoughtful conversation. And if we didn't, I'd be like, all right, stop talking and just play music.
I love it. Favorite buzzword you love to hate?
Oh man, there's so many. I'm not a huge fan of big data, omni-channel, or frictionless. I feel like they get overused and people just put them into like their vocabulary without even thinking.
Absolutely. They're kind of just become pointless at some point when they're that overused.
Mm-hmm.
What TV show are you binging or watching right now?
So I love Billions. It's wonderful. I love Ted Lasso, like everybody does. And The Morning Show. So like a bunch of those are on Apple TV and Showtime.
Yes, a little drama too. Billions is great. I don't
know. There's a lot of like hidden humor in there. Like I think it's smart writing.
Absolutely. Do you watch Succession?
No, my husband does though. He says it's good.
That's similar to Billions.
Okay.
Good writing. So recommended. Okay, last question. Favorite blog, newsletter, kind of social medium that you use to either stay informed or be entertained?
So I read lots of things. I feel like I'm on everybody's newsletter list. That's the only way you don't miss something, right? But entertainment wise, I love Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert. Like I could listen to it all day. One, I think that like I connect with him. Like I feel like he's like my spirit animal. Like when I listen to him, I'm like, yeah, no, that's how my brain works too. But he interviews and he's so thoughtful in the interview questions he asks that like you end up either laughing uncontrollably, or you're like, wow, I really learned something. And Adam Grant was on there, who wrote the originals, and just really thoughtful.
Yeah, I love him. He's really authentic. And I feel like
Mhm.
especially because it's shot like it's recorded like in his garage, like over his house. It feels just like he asked the real questions, and celebrities who normally may not open up. I mean, I think it was Mila Kunis that shared on here that she didn't like bathe her kids. That was like where that all started.
Yeah.
Was on
I listened to that one too, because I was like, I need to know more about NFT or NST and like how it works. And I didn't understand any of it. So I was like, you know what? Who can explain it to me? Mila Kunis. So
Absolutely. There we go. So before we dive in and talk tacos today, because we're going to talk tacos, it's Tuesday after all, you know, we gotta touch on it. Part of why we're here is to elevate and learn from voices of incredible women like yourself that are leading marketing efforts across the industry. So, you know, we know that the pandemic has adversely impacted women at a higher rate, you know, for many different reasons, from childcare to, you know, concerns in the household about pay. You know, could you share any words of advice or even tangible action steps to other women who are looking to, you know, progress their career and step into leadership roles?
yeah. So interestingly enough, I listened to an armchair expert, and Amy Poehler was on there, and she was talking about the same thing, like elevating voices in women. And she said, when I do something, she was talking about herself. She goes, when I do something, it becomes like a female empowerment thing. Because Dax was like, when I do something, they're not like, he did that and now it's bad for all males. He's like, something like I have to like stand up for all women. I think it's wonderful that we have this voice and this ability to help raise each other up. And that's what we should be doing. And that was kind of her overall message, but like lift each other up, raise each other up. And also for people out there who are like, I'm not sure what I should do, just do it. So I just listened to also a Mel Robbins podcast, and she talks about the 5-second rule. Like before your brain has time to stop you, go, just do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get out of bed, whatever it is. That's how I work out in the morning. I have to do it because I don't want to do it. Nobody wants, like, I don't want to get out of bed and work out, but I do it. And so before your brain, because we all negative self-talk to ourselves, stop it. That's the same reason when they made studies about women versus men, and men would apply for a job when they were like 60% qualified, and women would wait until they had almost 100% of the qualifications before they hit apply. That's crazy. Like, no, you just do it and then you figure it out, or you say yes. And guess what? Worst case, you fail and then you do something else, right? Like, who cares? So that, and then asking lots of questions. Like if you don't know the answer, that's okay. Just be like, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to go find out the answer. And having that inquisitive learning, a feeling about yourself, I think is really, really important. So there was a lot there. Sorry, long answer.
No, but it's right. It's almost like I think we as women suffer more from that imposter syndrome of like, do I belong here? Am I bringing something to the organization that men don't necessarily have those thoughts? And I think it's because of how thoughtful we as women are, and right, and how we work to be authentic and work to bring so much of ourselves into our jobs, but also, you know, our relationships with our colleagues. And you're so right. And you told me about that 5-second rule book, and I wrote it down to add to my list because it's
super interesting. She also does high five yourself, which is all about like, you can't be sad when you high five. And there were studies done of like sports teams, people gave positive feedback, not gave positive feedback, and then high fived, and the high five ones perform better because like there is a motivation in there that's different. And so this idea that like we need to congratulate ourselves. And so, and I said to my husband last night, like, not everything I do needs to be like, it's because I'm a woman, right? Like just be who you are. Stop second guessing yourself. You're going to go far. If we like, none of us know what we're doing. We all pretend like we know what we're doing. We have no idea. Like it's life, right? Like at some point when I'm 80, I'm going to look back and I'm going to go, you know, if I only knew then, but I don't. So let's figure it out together. And then also knowing that, like, believe me, I'm very grateful to be on a list of like high performing women. I'm so unbelievably grateful. Do not take this as ungrateful, but I can't wait until one day I'm on a list that just says like top leader, right? Like, why does it have to, like, why do we have to call out that I'm a female, which again, totally fine with it right now. And like, I love it. And we are raising us up, but at some point it's not going to be like, she's an amazing female leader. It's just, she's a great leader.
Absolutely. And it's to your point, I think it's the first step in trying to call attention to women in leadership, but also can can we just be regular leaders? Can we just lead things and people not make it a big deal? Like that. And that's kind of going to the next question. You know, can you share perspective on why bringing women into those positions of power is important? Like you kind of spoke to the women on this you know, session today about how they can step into roles, but why do you think it's valuable to have like diversity in a leadership position?
Because we have different ways of thinking, right? Like it's a good question, but it's all because we bring different thought processes to the table, right? Like when you look around your work table, you need to look around and go like, do we have this covered? If our work table is all one demo or one age, we might not have the landscape covered here, right? Like we need to make sure there is diversity and inclusion all around us all the time so that we can understand, because like, I don't know everything and I'm smart enough to know that I don't know everything. And I need to surround myself by smart, talented, diverse people. Like everybody on my team is totally different, right? We probably aren't going to be all at the same party at the same time because we're so different. And that's a good thing to have, that diversity. And the other thing too is like when we add women to the table, when we add, like I've been the only woman at an executive table for years in the past. And I had to, and it's taken years of therapy to understand this, but like I had to incorporate a lot of masculine traits in order to be accepted by my peers, totally unconsciously, right? Like I wasn't like, you know what, I have to act like a man, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't like, I'm gonna wear pants more. Like it's just unconsciously, and unconsciously for them too. They knew they accepted me more when I spoke a certain way at the table, right? And what's interesting about it is it's changed my personality. Some days I think for the better, some days not for the better. And my therapist will tell you that like there's a need to incorporate the feminine qualities when you spend your day working with mostly quote unquote masculine traits, right? And I find that really fascinating because I've made a concerted effort to be like, you know what? Let me become conscious about it. Let me think about it and go, who am I, right? Like, who am I and what do I want out there? And I want to be who I am. I don't want anyone to be like, well, she adapted to this environment, right? Like, I want to be accepted in. And because that, I truly believe that's why I continue to do okay and do well, is because I'm just like, this is who I am. I bring a different attitude, a different environment, a different way of thinking, and we either like it or we don't. And I don't fit in all cultures, believe me, I don't. But the ones I do, they accept that and they love that. And so it brings diversity, it brings inclusion. And I'm only one small piece of it, right? There's so much other diversity that needs to be brought to the table.
Absolutely. And we understand there's a level of adaptation that has to happen. And as you grow in your career, and must have been really difficult sitting at that table by yourself, but you don't want to lose the traits of yourself that got you there, that drove you to that success, right? And I think that's kind of the risk you take of elevating your career and wanting to change yourself to be more like those men and fit into that culture, but you don't want to compromise who you are.
Yeah. And I think that's for everyone and anyone. Like my husband's a stay-at-home dad. And I think he was asked yesterday, like 20 times what he does for a living. And he's like, oh, I work for her, take care of the kids, right? Like, and people would be like, oh, good for you. And I was like, that should not be like a weird answer. That should be like a totally normal answer that someone can give. And no one goes, wow, look at that. Right.
Absolutely. And that's a hard job. My mom.
Oh my God. I don't want that job.
That job's hard.
Oh, I love my children. I don't want to be with them, 24 hours a day, every day of the week.
That's so interesting. And it feels like, I don't know, we've grown so much as a society, right? I think positively, especially in gender norms and things like that. But it's interesting, you still feel that as a woman in leadership and to have your husband support you at that level, there's still some kind of like, oh, interesting. That's what he does. There's still that head tilt moment, There
was, when he started doing it 6 or 7 years ago, we lived in Texas. I love Texas, loved living there. And we lived in a pretty conservative area where a lot of stay-at-home moms were, no stay-at-home dads at all. And they would say, oh, can you not find a job? And he'd be like, no, like, this is my job. I chose this. And they'd be like, is it hard? And he's like, no, harder than like what you do. Like you do the same thing. Like, no, I mean, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's a hard job, but not crazy hard because I'm their parent. But like, it's again, it's an unconscious bias of like, people don't even realize that they have these perceptions or they grew up and you have to break them. Right.
Yes.
It's fascinating to me when you actually pull it apart and I don't go at it and go, no, let's have a conversation about this, but you can like slowly educate people and like, hey, no, it's not hard. He's the parent just like you are. And like, it actually builds a relationship if you kind of hit it head on politely.
Absolutely. We know you're still just as much as the parent, just because you have a job, right? When we were talking last week, you were like, oh, there's children running around. Like,
oh yeah,
it's kind of the world we're in. And, you know, speaking of that, you joined Del Taco and your role in the kind of height of the pandemic. I don't know where we are in terms of the timeline of the pandemic.
No. Is it over? Is it not? I don't know.
Where are we? But could you tell me a little bit about your experience in kind of joining a company in a leadership role at that time and kind of how you were able to set the culture of your team being remote and in that environment?
So I was hired in September of last year, and I had met my boss years ago, and he had called me and said he was interested in creating this position. He was interested in me taking on this position. And I was like, I don't know, like, we'll see. It's pandemic, right? We're all working from home. And the company is based in California. And they said, are you looking to move to California? No, not really. I'd be very poor there. But I do okay for Wisconsin. So they said, well, what do you think about working remotely? Like you'd fly out and things like that. Once they knew when the pandemic is over, again, we don't know. But I was like, what do I think about that? I am a people person. But it turns out it's okay. Like I connect so closely with my team because I communicate more than I've ever communicated before, right? I'm on the phone or a Zoom or something every day. And it lets you into people's lives, right? Like I said, my kids, it's a revolving door in my office. Like they just and it's glass doors. So if I don't let them in, they just stare at me until I let them in. And then it's something like ridiculous that they need. Like I was once on a Zoom call, and he's going to learn about this probably right the second when I say it, because he had no idea. I was on a Zoom call with my CEO, and my son came in to ask me if like he had wiped well enough. And I was like, oh my Lord. I was like, get out. And like, I don't think my CEO even knew that it happened, but it was like, of all the calls, this is when like, where's your father?
You can't make that up. That's
right.
Amazing.
No. So it makes you real though. It makes your team see those things. They see, because it turns out I did put lipstick on for you, but like most of the time I look completely disheveled and I'm very productive and still don't look great, but like, that's fine. And I don't care if they see me on video anymore. Like I used to care about those things. I don't care anymore. And so it makes you a real person and able to connect, which allows you to build that culture because you start to have trust, you have faith, you have connections, all of which are grounded in that engagement for employees. And also because not being sitting right next, right? Like nobody's walking down the hall and like stops in for conversation. So you have to actively reach out and communicate and have those conversations that maybe I would have taken for granted just walking down the hall and stopping in someone's office before. So I think it's actually been better. My CEO will tell you he feels like I'm there all the time because I'm talking all the time, right? In a good way, not in a bad way. So I do think it worked out well, and you're able to build that. And then I've gone out there a couple of times, and when we are out there, we get to make the most of the time, right? You don't take it for granted that you're in person. So let's pack it all in.
Absolutely. I think that level of authenticity we've all been able to bring in this time, as to me, is kind of the silver lining. Like I've gotten to meet clients' kids and, oh, there's your husband. Hi, because they're walking by, you know, like, and I mean, we joked like we don't wear makeup today. We got our glam on.
I brushed my hair for you.
Yeah, I brushed my hair for you, just for you, Erin.
It makes it connect too, because it used to be you go to work, you come home, and that's your family time, right? But now that it's a blend, I've actually seen like quote unquote tip for like people who call me to sell me something, like when they incorporate fastest way to get to my heart and make me listen to you is you incorporate my family somehow, right? Like when the pandemic first hit, people were doing like wine tastings and stuff, and they'd send wine. Well, I don't like red wine. I know you're all writing this down at home. Like you're like, okay, she doesn't like red wine. Don't send her red wine. But so my husband would drink it. So he would sit next to me and listen to like the wine tasting tour, and it incorporated him. And again, fastest way to get to my heart. We were invited to an event the other day, and they were like, do you want to go see this football game? And I was like, no. And they're like, you want to bring your husband? I was like, so we'll be there. Because
attending.
it includes, right. Like it brings everybody together. So it's now not work and life, it's blended together. And guess what? It's better for everyone because I'm invested, you're invested. Like everybody now has that connection that used to be like, we wouldn't even talk about our families at work all the time.
Absolutely. It was so separated, and it's now kind of it had to be blurred, which can be difficult to balance that blurring, right? I think that's kind of the next piece of it. But so switching gear, as kind of we talked about family, and I still can't get over that story of your son. I'm gonna laugh at that later. Switching into gears kind of to Del Taco, I'd love to kind of learn more about, what's Del Taco's strategic kind of approach to marketing? Are you more platform based or audience based? Tell us a little bit more about kind of the approach you've taken also to your role combining marketing and technology.
Yeah, it's curated content. So it's making sure the right story is told on the right platform, right? So thinking about like what you put on TV, it used to be, and I was talking to someone earlier today where she goes, you remember when it used to be like you had one big campaign idea and then it all just trickled down to all the different pieces right from there? It's no longer that way. It's like, this has to be a different strategy on, let's say, TikTok than it has to be over there, right? So really thinking about it that way, but also thinking about the fact that understanding who the customer is and where they're seeing you, right? They're on their screens, they're looking at different things. And the way I talk to like a Gen Z audience is different than a baby boomer audience, not only in the way I talk to them, but where I talk to them. And so it really becomes a customer centric approach. And sometimes I think as marketers, we get in our own way and we go, well, no, it's about me. And we all know, even in like real life, if I walk around all day going, everything's about me, nobody wants to hang out with that person. Nobody's like, you know what? I love the person that can't get over themselves. No. But when I care and I love on other people and I share my love with other people, people want to be around those people. It's the same way if you think about your brand that way. If you walk around and you're like, listen to me, it's great. Look at my brand. I'm great. That doesn't work. The moment your brand focuses on who the customer is and bringing them in and engaging them, that's when it works. That's when people want to engage.
It's authenticity again, right? I think if anything else, do you feel like with the pandemic, Del Taco and other brands have kind of had to be more authentic and focus on the customer instead of all the me kind of show that we might have seen before?
Yeah. And I think so there was a study done in theaters by like the National Theater Association, and they looked at different demographics and age, ethnicity, all that. And what they found was a huge difference in basically like 34 and younger wanted some engagement. They wanted people to know they were at the show. They wanted to engage somehow. They were totally okay with like them being like, hey, we need an audience member. They're like, yeah, let's be involved. 35 and up, we're a little more like, I'm good just watching the show. Like, you don't have to engage me. I may or may not post about this on social media. Like, let's just enjoy the show. That's what I came here to be, an audience member. And when you take that and you look at how that relates to brand marketing, one is taking in the information. You're speaking to them. Another one wants to have a conversation. And so thinking about it that way, and again, I don't think it's just the pandemic. I think it's been this way. We're just starting to see it more often and more worldly because we were all stuck in our homes so long. So the only way to communicate was through marketing.
And speaking about kind of communicating to your audience, you've recently launched a points-based loyalty program called Del Yeah, which, can I kick it? Del Yeah, let's stick on my head. Would love to hear, how is that going to shift your marketing strategy? And now that you can kind of more succinctly connect to your audience on that one-to-one basis from a marketing standpoint, but also from a data standpoint.
Yeah. Well, it gives us data, and in return, we reward our customers, right? We find that people don't have a problem if you track them. If you're tracking sounds horrible. It sounds like we're tracking you. I mean, we are, but when we're doing it, we find that customers don't have an issue as long as they're receiving something useful in return, like offers, rewards, personalization. And again, personalization is one of those like stigma words where everybody's like, how are you personalizing things? And you're like, what does that mean though? And so most brands aren't on a true one-to-one personalization, right? They're on a journey to get there. And so what we were before was mass automation, right? Like we were just sending messages. And now then we started to get to segmentation, and now we're truly at a micro segmented approach, and we're bordering in on personalization, meaning people start to go on their own journeys, their own kind of micro architecture of, hey, you did this, so you received this. And it's a little math based. It's a little like how you think of like SQL queries, but like if customer does this, then do this. If customer does this and is this age, then they receive this. And you start to put them on their own journey. And it's less old school marketing calendar of like today's Taco Tuesday. Well, they never come on Tuesday, so maybe we shouldn't tell them about that today. Maybe Taco Thursday is more their jam, right? So thinking about it that way, looking at it that way, this program allows for people to have their own journey with us, whether you come in once a month or 10 times a month. And it stops that ability of like every day isn't free fry day, right? Like you receive rewards based on your user behavior.
That's fascinating. It's amazing to hear you're really using customer choices and decisions to adjust how you connect with them. I think that's kind of, we see the future of AI and technology adjusting, but it's great to see that kind of at the rewards level, because that's why customers will continue to buy into your brand and have that loyalty and awareness, because they feel seen in a different way than their friend was seen, right? Like,
I love that you said they feel seen. It's such it's such an emotional tie, which it's totally, you're exactly right. But like, I feel seen, like you see me, and that's 100% what we want to do is like, we want to build that relationship.
You always want to be seen by the people that give you tacos. Mm-hmm. Like I'm in LA, I'm a big taco person. It's important to have that emotional connection.
Yes.
So yes, I know I brought that level of it to Del Taco too. So I think we're just out of time at 1:34. So I didn't see any questions come through. But
I think I see one.
Oh, let me see.
What did you do to get customers to adopt? So we told them about it. That was step one. We were like, hey, we have a rewards program. But then also anybody who downloads the Del Yeah Rewards app gets 2 free Del tacos, right? Like we're Del Taco. We have the Del Taco, which is like our best premium taco. You get 2 of them just by downloading and registering in the app that you can use. And you get to, then you get, as you go along the journey, you're going to unlock new things. And the other difference is like, you don't have to redeem your rewards just for like 1 thing or 2 things, which we've seen other companies out there do that. They have a plethora of things to redeem for. And we have tiers, so you can grow in different tiers, which unlock a whole nother level of rewards. So like think true like loyalty on steroids. But I totally encourage you to download the app. And if you love it, let me know. And if you don't, like, we don't have to talk. It's fine. I'm kidding. You can tell me.
I hope everyone was taking notes. And yes, I'll say to Erin, reach out to her on LinkedIn if you have questions. She's incredibly inviting and warm, and her bullshit meter is high though. So thank you, Erin, so much for your time. And thank you, Brand Innovators, for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Erin. So for our final session of the day, Jessica Jensen is Chief Marketing Officer at Indeed. She is responsible for brand communication, product acquisition, and experience marketing globally. Before joining Indeed, Jessica was CMO at OpenTable. Prior to OpenTable, she was head of products, platforms, and insights for business marketing at Facebook. She has held leadership roles at Apple and Yahoo and started her professional career at Boston Consulting Group. Our moderator is Donna Speciale, is president of advertising sales and marketing at Univision Communications, Inc., the leading Spanish language content and media company in the United States, where she leads the expansion and advancement of Univision's offerings for advertisers. Welcome to the stage.